Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Well-Rounded Dude podcast. My name is Chris. If you followed me over from the Well-Rounded Dude YouTube channel, you already know what we're about. We're about helping guys find their self-confidence and trying to elevate them to that well-rounded status. It's hard to believe, but it's been 2 years since I started the Well-Rounded Dude YouTube channel, and I've learned a lot. One is, there are just some topics that it's so hard for me to make a video on because I want to give you guys everything on that topic. And that would turn into a 30-40 minute long YouTube video and nobody would watch that. So there are just certain topics that are just best left for a podcast. Ironically and admittably enough, I don't really consume that many podcasts. So I just decided to give it a shot. Go for it. And I can dive in a little bit deeper on those topics, give you guys a little bit more information and talk about certain things in depth. And my goal is to, have some more guests on here and to give you some of their stories, give you their insights, things that they've done in their lives that they've learned along the way that helped them out, or just good old fashioned tips, or just talking about some good old-fashioned pop culture as well. I'm a huge movie buff and I love talking about movies and such. So that's what you're going to get with this podcast. So buckle up. It's going to be a great ride. Again, this is going to be the first one. And I am going to talk about what made me start the Well-Rounded Dude. Hence the title, The Origin of the Well-Rounded Dude. Dramatic, I know. I have kind of beat around the bush a little bit before when I've been asked about it, and I just want to share it with you guys, and I think that's a good place to start. So I'm curious for everybody who's listening, have you ever gone through something bad that eventually set you on a path to something good? I think everybody goes through that, and I don't think it's like that uncommon actually. And that's kind of how this channel started. I was going through some stuff that led me to a better place. I was going through a dark time. And, looking back at the time, I was really upset over it, but it ultimately led me to being happy and doing this channel and making some good friends. To tell you the story, to cut back to 2017, I knew I wanted to do something different. I wanted to have a different kind of hobby. I was just looking for something different to do. And I made a friend. I met somebody who at the time I thought that she was a really good friend. We had a lot in common. For you guys that have been following the channel, or I should say the ones that haven't been following the channel, I kind of mentioned this at the top, but I'm a big pop culture fan. I like comic books. I like animated series. I like movies. I like a whole bunch of stuff. And to be honest, sometimes it's very hard to find somebody who has those same interests. And given today's political climate, finding somebody who agrees with those and doesn't hate you immediately is very hard to find. So I was pleased to find somebody that I had this connection with, this thing in common with. And it was surprising, we would hang out, we would go to the same movies we were interested in and hang out, and things were good for a long time. But then cut to, it was November of that year, and I got a letter from my landlord at the time telling me that he was increasing my rent almost twofold. It was doubling. No, that's a lot of money. And the place just wasn't worth it. And technically what he did was illegal. If you don't know, here in New York State, you have to give 30 days notice before a reasonable rent increase. But he gave less than 30 days for an unreasonable rent increase. So I was distraught about that, but I wasn't going to stay there. The apartment just wasn't worth it. I couldn't stay there. And plus, if I agreed to it, who knows what he would have done later on. So within less than 30 days, I was trying to find a new place to live, and I was unsuccessful in that venture. I had to pack all my stuff up into storage. And again, you guys don't know this, but I have a ton of collectibles, a ton of different things. And not to mention just my normal, your couch, your sofa, your TVs, and all that happy horse shit. So I had to pack up all of my stuff, put it in storage, and try to find a place to stay. So luckily I was able to find a place with a friend of mine. She was very kind because, again, I didn't know how long I was going to need to stay with her, but she was very cool. She was, no problem, Chris. You can come. I got a room for you. You can come stay here as long as you need. And even though I had found a place to go, I don't know if you guys have ever had to worry about where you're going to stay, or, 1 minute you have your own place and all of a sudden it's taken from you. It's gone. That is a very, very stressful thing to go through. especially when you don't know where to go. And even if you do, again, it's very stressful to have that weighing down on you that you don't have a place to go to call your own. And especially all the stuff that your own stuff that you love seeing is put into storage. And that's what I had to do. So that was weighing very heavily on my mind. It didn't put me in a good place. I mean, I was very depressed over it, but I soldiered on. It's actually funny. One time I was walking through Walmart while I was in the middle of this, and I got stopped by a cable salesman, like Time Warner Cable or Spectrum or whatever, and they were like trying to sell me cable. And she's like, "Oh, what kind of cable service do you have at your home, sir? I'd like to talk to you about some Spectrum." And I'm just like, "I don't have a home, so no, I can't talk about that." Again, it was just funny. It was just like, I don't have a home. I don't have cable. She's just like, oh, it was very awkward. It was funny. So after I moved in with Sarah, I was staying there for a little bit. And for you guys from the channel, that it's not Foxy Dudettes Sarah. It's a completely different Sarah. I know quite a few, but I digress. While I'm staying with Sarah, this friend helps me find a place. She would send me listings of help me looking for a place and such. And our friendship was growing. And eventually I did find a place. I really only had to stay at my friend Sarah's for a month before I found a place and was able to move in. And, this new friend I made, she helped me unpack. Things were going good, or so I thought. Our friendship was growing. We would talk about, past relationships or potential relationships and things that had happened to us or that affected those relationships, and, just typical friend stuff that you would go around and you would tell, you would share personal stories. That's what friends do. Well, things did take a turn for the worst, unfortunately. So she wound up using something I told her against me. I had told her a story of somebody else, an old flame, years prior to me meeting her, of the falling out that we had. She just decided she didn't want to talk to me anymore and just implied that I had hurt her somehow or had done something, which was weird because we had never had an argument, but just cut me off, didn't say anything. To this day, I still don't know what happened. And it hurt me at first, but I've gotten over it. But I had relayed this story to this new person, and she did the same thing. She got upset over something and just ghosted me. Which, let's talk about that for a little bit. Ghosting is a very immature response to in dealing with somebody that you are supposedly care about. As a friend, as a romantic partner, it doesn't matter. Ghosting somebody is the most immature thing that you can do. I've talked about this in a past video. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes people just don't get the hint. For the most part, that should be like a really, 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 really last resort. We shouldn't be going around ghosting each other for slight inconveniences of like, they're affecting my emotional health. If that's the problem, you need to talk to somebody seriously, because that is the most immature thing that you can do. I digress. So I got ghosted. She stopped talking to me for a while. And what was worst was I was finding out that she was saying things to other people. She was talking about me to other people. And this really, really upset me. I mean, right now, one of the big current events is we're talking about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, the defamation case that Johnny is bringing against Amber. And he was on the stand the other day and he said something very, very profound. When you are with somebody that you care about, now I want to be clear. This person I'm talking about, there was no romantic feelings whatsoever. We were just friends. But what Johnny said the other day was, when you tell somebody something, somebody you care about, and you're telling them something that hurt you before, something that hurt you, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you're telling them something that hurt you before, and that person then weaponizes it against you. That is like the ultimate betrayal. It hurts. I mean, just the fact that they are doing that is what really gets you. And I could totally relate to that. So, yeah. That's what happened. I got ghosted, and then eventually, she had some property of mine that she never did return. I tried getting it back, but I did get a conversation out of her at least, and then that was that. I was supposed to get my stuff back. I never did, and that's fine. It's whatever. But at the time, that really led to me, it led me into a depression. Like I said, when you tell somebody something that you confide in them and they use that against you, especially when it's somebody that you thought was a good person, and she probably is a good person. I don't know. Things happen between people. Just because certain things happen does not make one person toxic and bad and the other one is all good. There's no such thing. There's shades of gray and everything. But when that happens to you, that really, really hurts. And it sunk me into a very, very deep depression where I pretty much just got out of bed to go to work. And if I didn't have to work, I was in bed. I didn't really want to be around other people. My trust and my faith was shaken in people. And, there was times I would eat a little bit. Sometimes there was days I would go, 2 or 3 days without eating. I would just just lay there and just be sad. And I tell you this not to feel sorry for me. I really hope you don't feel sorry for me. I want to share with you guys that I know what it's like to be hurt. I know how people can be. And even as I'm telling you this story, I don't hate this person that did this to me. Like I said, things happen. Some people are just not compatible. I don't know why. I wish I'm a big believer in constructive criticism. Although somebody told me today that it shouldn't be called constructive criticism, it should be called constructive advice, which I like that better. But I'll take it any day. And that's what hurt, was because how if there was something that I did that was wrong that I may not realize, how am I supposed to get better if you're not going to tell me about it? Yeah, I was sad and upset for a very long time. What did get me through the sadness was because I felt like something was wrong with me. I thought, I just wasn't right. That's what was going through my head. Like, there had to be something wrong with me if somebody was going to do this to me. What I didn't realize, again, was that it wasn't me. It was the other person. And I can say that now. And I mean, not that I'm saying I'm perfect or anything, but it wasn't me. But I went on this phase of, well, let me try to work on myself, which, looking back now, that thought process of like, well, let me fix me because there's something wrong with me was not right, but it was right, if that makes any sense. Let me try to explain it to you. So I improved. I worked on myself, and that really was the best thing that I could have done. I didn't realize it at the time, but I worked on myself. I was going on YouTube and I was learning different things about fashion, about style. And I just was absorbing YouTube videos and style, fashion data and all that stuff. And I realized like, oh, okay, maybe I could pull an outfit together. Maybe, that would make me a better person. And the problem again was not me, but that was my thought process. And I came across this guy when I was researching some colognes. So you guys follow the channel at all, that I'm a big fan of fragrances, but I was looking up how to make your fragrances last longer or something like that. And I discovered this guy named Alpha M, Aaron Marino. He's like the OG of men's style YouTubing and YouTubers. What's going on with me? Anyway, you enjoying this first episode, guys? You're getting it raw. But I discovered him, and the YouTube algorithm, one thing leads to another. You listen to or watch one video and it pulls you up to another one. And I was just absorbing his content and watching different things. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe, I can this together or try this outfit or try this color pattern and, maybe I'll feel better. And, I started shopping a little bit and putting together some outfits, and I started to get compliments. And that's one of the things I want to tell you guys is, and I've said this in the videos before, but I want to tell you guys, try to pay at least one compliment a day because you never know what it's going to do for somebody. I say that and I speak from experience. I was in a place where my self-esteem and I just felt like complete and utter shit. And these people would pay me compliments, and all of a sudden I did not feel completely worthless anymore. But I started to get, asked questions and like, how'd you do your hair? How'd you do this? What are you using? What fragrance are you wearing? What are you doing? What style of clothing? And dude, where'd you get this jacket? And it started to kind of click in my head, like, maybe I could do this, for funsies. Maybe I could do this as a hobby. Maybe I could possibly start a YouTube channel, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to really listen to me. Again, I was still going through some shit. So I'm like, even though you are a worthless piece of shit, Chris, people aren't really going to want to listen to you. So why, if you really like that, they're not going to want to listen to you. Again, the wrong mindset to have. Do not have that mindset. Then came the time that Aaron was talking about the Menfluential conference, and he announced the dates and that it was going to be the last one. And I was very torn on going because at this point, like I said, I really wasn't leaving the house. I really wasn't doing anything fun. If I did leave the house, it was to go to like the movies, and I didn't go with anybody. I would go by myself, or if I'd go get food, it was to go because I'd bring it back. I wasn't really talking to friends I've had for years. I wasn't talking to anybody. So I was very wary of going. There was just times on holidays that would come up. My mom would be like, okay, Thanksgiving's coming up, or, Christmas and stuff. And I'm just like, look, I don't know if I'm going to go. It's nothing against you. It's like, I don't want to bring you down. I'm down. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. And she just come as you are. It's important. I'm like, okay. So I tell you that, guys, that just to give you a little bit of perspective into my mindset was that I really wasn't doing anything. I would make plans with people, occasionally some friends that didn't know what was going on with me. They would, call and be like, hey, let's go to lunch. And I'd be like, yeah. And then the time came and I canceled and be like, I'm just not up to it, which was the truth, to be honest. But getting back to the last Menfluential conference, he was advertising that. And when he said it was the last one, I'm like, I should go. Maybe there'll be some kind of opportunity for me to learn something, or possibly get a better job opportunity or something. And at the very least, I get to meet Aaron. He had helped me a lot. As I tell you guys that, my mindset wasn't good, it was starting to wane a little bit. I was starting to get a little bit better. I still wasn't in that 100% place. So it's the last one. Maybe I should go. So I thought long and hard about it, and I bought the ticket. I was like, okay, now you have to go. You just spent the money. It's non-refundable. It cost me like $200 for this ticket. I have to go. You'll have to do something. You'll have to not, lay in bed all day and just sleep or whatever. You have to get your ass out of bed. You have to do something. And I made my travel arrangements and such. And, the time was coming. I decided, okay, it's time. All right, I'll go. So I went to the conference. I traveled by myself. It was the first time I've really traveled that far away and stayed like a few days away, like on my own. So I did. I remember getting ready, and it's just like, I was really nervous because it was hard enough to pull myself up to like, okay, it's time to go. It's time to get ready to go be in a group of people, but actually do it. That was one thing that was different. I was in a place of where it's just best to keep to myself. That was my mindset. It's best to keep to myself. And, but it's going to be, 400 people. So that was weighing on my mind, but I'm like, it's just best to keep to yourself, but you're going to go into a group of people. So that's what I did. I went the first day, and I have to be honest with you guys, that going to that conference was the best thing I have ever done. That was the best $200 I ever spent. I got a completely different perspective. I met two of the best friends I've ever had in my life, to be honest. I got it's amazing what one weekend can do to you, for you. I was a different person when I came back, but the conference was amazing. I connected with, like I said, I met my good friend Yaya, also known as Young Pro Style, and my buddy Elliot. I've talked about them on the channel before. They've been featured on a few videos. I've mentioned how our bond of friendship, it was funny because I went there really solely to meet Aaron. That was my goal. I was just going to be like, it's cool to meet him and, tell him that he helped me and such. But, I started meeting other people. Everybody at that conference was amazing. It was just so cool. Words can't even describe, I can't even put into words of what that conference was like. Everybody was kind. Everybody was nice. Everybody was classy. There was no attitudes. There was no egos. There was none of that. Everybody was just like, so what brings you here, man? People would ask me, and, I had been toying with this idea to start this channel. So at the time I was going to call it The Well-Rounded Gentleman. And that's what I was telling people at the conference. I'm like, it's going to be called The Well-Rounded Gentleman. And just tell them about, fashion. And, I knew I had the idea of, I wanted to talk about more things than just that. I wanted to talk about tech and movies and comics and so just a whole bunch of different topics, cooking segments, such, because I felt that there was a lot of guys out there that was missing that. And not that you had to be like a master of any of this stuff. I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. That's what I wanted the channel to be. Like, you're not going to be the next Gordon Ramsay if you watch my channel, but I can show you how to cook a steak, or fry some chicken wings, both of which are videos that are on the channel, so in that sense. So that's what I was going around telling people. It's going to be called The Well-Rounded Gentleman. and we're going to do stuff like that. We're going to talk about 4K TVs on occasion, because it's a little bit different in upgrading than it was from upgrading from a standard television to a 1080p. And they're like, oh, sounds good. And, back of my head, I'm kind of like, oh, I just kind of thought of this on the fly in a way. I hadn't given it serious thought, but serious enough that I kind of had the name of the channel down. And what really changed my mind was once I met Yaya and Elliot that day, and I met a fair number of people there at the conference too, but it was the connection that we made at that conference was just bonding over stuff that people don't usually talk about, or at least where I'm from. Not a lot of guys like to talk about cologne or clothes. Where I'm from, it's camo and overalls and hunting and stuff. Not that stuff, there's anything wrong with that stuff. It's just, that's not me. I'm more like, well, let's talk about suits. Let's talk about the latest release from Christian Dior. Let's talk about that new Victor and Rolf Spice Bomb infrared. That's me. But in this area where I live, nobody's doing that. Nobody's wearing cologne. So to actually talk to guys about that, so what do you tell your tailor when you go to get your jeans altered? And what's your favorite niche fragrance? It was just refreshing to me. And it really, my spirit changed in that weekend. I didn't meet Yaya and Elliot till pretty much the end of the first day. And me and a bunch of the other guys, including Yaya and Elliot and like 9 other guys, we all went out to dinner that night, and it was just like, wow, everybody here is really cool. Everybody's here is cool. We had dinner, we laughing, joking around, we got to know each other a little bit, but you would have thought just by the conversation and everything that everybody had been friends for years, and we all just met like in the Uber, got to know each other on the way to the restaurant. I felt refreshed. And then the next day of the conference, I got to spend a little bit more time with Yaya and Elliot and just talking and listening to the different speeches that were going on. Because this conference, the Menfluential Conference, for you guys that don't know, it was a conference that talked about personal development, personal growth, and then growing your business, your online business, if you're growing into like video creation or social media, stuff like that, like content creator stuff. And, I didn't really think I was going to get much out of it in that regard, but in hindsight, I totally did. So I got to meet Aaron, and he was very cool. I didn't break down and tell him my story like I'm telling you guys my story. I just did tell him, you've helped me a lot, and I can't thank you enough. This, your channel, what you do, has helped me immensely. And, he was just like, oh, come here, brother. He gave me a hug. He told me he loved me. And I'm like, damn, dude, you really are amazing, just like you are on the channel. And that was that, because of course it's 400 people. He had other people to talk to. He couldn't just talk to me all the time. I don't know why not. So one of the speakers at the Menfluential Conference was Jeff, the Style OG. I'm sure you guys have checked out his YouTube channel before. He's got some great videos, some great tips. Great guy. I got to meet him and talk to him a little bit, and he was very encouraging. He had asked me, he's like, so what are you going to do? You're going to start a channel? I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about it. He's like, best advice I can give you, just start. He's like, that's what I'm going to talk about here in my speech here in a little bit. I wasted 3 years. I'm like, okay, just start. He's like, your first videos are going to suck. They're going to be terrible, but just try your best, and you'll get better with each one you do. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So during his speech, that's what he did talk about. He was talking to everybody, and he's like, I started later than I wanted to. I just got in my own head. I'm celebrating 3 years. It should have been 5 or 6 or something like that. And he's like, most of you guys, when you leave here, you're talking a good game. You ain't gonna do shit when you leave here. And I remember looking over at Yaya, and we're just like, damn. Just like, well, okay. And that really did stick with me. Like, I thought about it more. And once the conference ended, I would talk with Yaya and Elliot, and we would communicate back and forth and be like, oh, we got to prove the Style OG wrong. We got to get our content together. We got to get our game going. We got to step it up. We got to do this. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm sitting back here, and I'm like thinking, should I? Is this something I really want to do? And I thought about it, and I couldn't get the idea of starting this channel out of my head. I knew I had to try. I didn't know if I was going to be good at it, if I was going to succeed, but I had to try because I felt that I could do something to help people. I felt I could, if it was one person watching that got some kind of idea from me, if they learned something, if I was able to help somebody who's struggling, because I didn't want anybody to struggle like I did. I wanted somebody to be able to be like, I don't know what to do. And then maybe see one of my videos and be like, oh, and then, let that be that last puzzle piece that just completes that puzzle for them. Then it was worth it. So I studied up on video production, because I always had an interest in photography, to be honest, but it's something I never followed through on. I never progressed with it. I had disposable cameras and stuff, and I'd like to take pictures and stuff, but I never learned about proper photography, like, oh, your ISO and your aperture and your picture setting and all that stuff. I just didn't do that. But I started to learn once I started to do the channel. So I was learning about video, and I started off with just my phone and a ring light, and I didn't even have the I used the selfie cam on my phone. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. Any of the potential YouTube guys that are up and coming, always use your rear camera. Never use your selfie camera, because your rear camera is better. But I digress. And I shot a video, that was the easiest I could do at the time, which was the style kit video, which was something I had implemented during my trip to Atlanta. I knew Menfluential was a style convention. Everybody was going to be dressed in suits and stuff, and I didn't know how I would feel during the day. I could wake up one day and like, damn, I wish I had brought my other tie, or I wish I brought my other pocket square. So I just made this kit that I took with me that had pins and your collar pins and your tie clip and your pocket squares and socks and whatever that's easy to carry, that can fit in, it'll fit in your luggage, and you'll have everything you need. So I thought that was a great idea, an easy video for me to shoot for my very first video. And it came out okay. I was happy with it, considering I had never recorded a video before, never recorded myself really. I was terrible at selfies, let alone recording videos. And I gave it a shot. I did a little research. I knew that my videos probably wouldn't be like the best quality at first, but I was going to give it my damnedest. I was going to give it my all to make the video as good as possible that I could possibly do with the knowledge that I had. And that's what I encourage you guys to do, is try your best, give it your best shot. And, I put together that first intro, the song, I found that and I made that intro, and every step of the way when I was building the channel, I ran it across Yaya and Elliot, and they would give me their honest opinion. And to this day, it still blows me away of how supportive they are. They are amazing. They gave me opinions on intros, because I made 4 or 5 of them. And I was like, what do you guys think of this one? And what do you think of this one with this music from this one? And were always there for me whenever I needed to talk to them. Both of them are just like, oh, I think it's great. I like this one a little bit better. I think that'll work for you. And, oh, I can't wait to see this, man. And I even had shot a test video that I had never released. It's basically me sitting in a chair and be like, okay, this is the video to test my editing skills. And I made this little video. It's 30 seconds, and I kept it unreleased. Someday I may release it just to show you guys where I started. But I shared it with them, and they were just like, oh, dude, that's awesome. That's cool. You got it. You're doing it. And I decided, I was getting good feedback from them, great feedback from my mom, and from a few, there was only one other person I showed, and I was getting good feedback from them, but I'd kept it a secret that I was working on this channel from everybody else. As a matter of fact, I think actually in hindsight, yeah, I only did share it with my mom and Yaya and Elliot. I kept it a secret from everybody else because I was so nervous and so scared. Just pressing record and recording myself, I thought people were going to laugh at me. While I had definitely improved in 2020 over how I was feeling in 2019, I still wasn't 100%. It's some PTSD when you go through something like that, some trauma. When you go through something like that, it takes a while to heal, and I was still hurting pretty much, and doubting myself. So while I was really just stepping outside of my comfort zone, which is what I recommend to you guys to do all the time, it was really tough for me to do, and I was still doubting myself. I was just like, oh, people people I do know, are they going to laugh at me? Are they going to think I'm stupid? Like, what if this fails? And what if nobody watches? Or, what if I get a ton of hateful comments or telling me I'm stupid? And I was just like, I have to try. So I made a few videos. I planned for a hard release of May 1st of 2020. And that's what I did. On May 1st, 2020 at 10 a.m., I released the first video. I released 2 videos that day. One was a giveaway at the time because I was trying to get 100 subscribers. I released that giveaway and that video, and then my first video on the style kit. And I was surprised that first day I gained, because at the time I really started off with like 3 subscribers. At the end of the day, I had 25, and that video had got 100 views after I shared it. And some people I had shared it on Facebook, and some of my friends had shared it and were encouraging. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a tear in my eye. I literally had a tear in my eye when I saw that people were sharing my video, that they were happy. People that I hadn't even talked to in years were sharing my video, encouraging me to make more. They liked the content that I put out. They were just excited for me. And it's not what I expected. Again, PTSD, your trauma will always get you. And it really did surprise me. Now, that's not to say that I didn't get any kind of hateful comments or messages. It wasn't 100%. I did receive a Facebook message from somebody I knew in the middle of the night telling me what a piece of shit that video was, my first video, and that how I should get rid of the bag. She didn't like the bag, and she was telling me I should have found a different bag because remember, you're talking about style. And I'm like, I do know that, but we're also talking about airlines, and you have to have like plastic bags. But anyway, so yeah, it's never going to be 100%. There's always going to be an asshole in the bunch. But I'm glad I did get that bit of because in my opinion, personally, that's not constructive criticism or constructive advice. That was just mean. You don't just tell somebody that their video or something that they worked on, their very first thing, that it's just like shit. But it didn't bother me, which surprised me at the same time, because if it had been just a few weeks earlier, if somebody had said something like that to me, I would have been crushed and I probably wouldn't have gone through with the channel. But the outpouring of support from everybody else, from Yaya, from Elliot, my mom, and the friends that shared that video that day and liked it and commented and messaged and just told me that they were proud of me and that I was doing a good job. And my good friend Lauren, like texting me to tell me like, hey, you did a great job. I'm so proud of you. Happy for you that you tried. That really offset the one comment, which it should. But I mean, I was so blown away by that, that I did get when I got that negative message from the person I knew, it didn't matter. That's another message for you guys, is that remember that not everybody's horrible. There's good people out there. People do bad things, and that doesn't make them a bad person, but good people do bad things. And just because somebody or people do those things or doesn't mean that everybody is going to. You're going to have people who care about you. There are people who care about you that even from unexpected places, you're going to get encouragement and that it's not going to be all horrible. So yeah, I'm glad I got that comment or that message, even though it was in the middle of the night. It was kind of weird, but because it ultimately didn't matter. It's the lesson in life. You're always going to have somebody that's going to not like what you're doing. But look at it this way. In the first day, I had over 100 views and lots of likes in the video and messages and comments from people that I knew and hadn't spoken to in years or a long time. And they were really happy and liked what I was doing compared to one person who just didn't, just thought my video was a piece of shit. And, I'll take the amount of people who liked it any day. So there's always going to be that. There's always going to be people that don't like what you do, and it really made me focus on getting better. And it still happens to this day. It's been 2 years and I still get comments from people like, great video. And these are people I know. And the great thing is too, it's coming from people I don't know. It's coming from strangers. They'll message and tell me, I like your video. That was really good. Like, well done, bro. Great job, you know? And I still have my support from my good friends, from Yaya, from Elliot, my mom, and my buddy Lauren, and Foxy Dudette Sarah, who I, it was later on that we reconnected, and she saw the videos and was like proud and blown away, and has joined me on several since then. And I still get that to this day. And I can't be more thankful that I'm in such a better place. My self-esteem it's gotten better. I can look back now, and even though I felt horrible for what happened between me and the friend that will remain nameless, if I could change it, I don't think I would, because I'm ultimately at a better place. The channel has been great. The response to it has been great. I've reconnected with some friends. I work on some really cool projects. I work with some really cool brands now. And that's not to say that there's not more to do, that I still have growing to do. I still have goals to accomplish, and that there's still more to learn. I'm not saying I'm a master of YouTube video creation, because that's not true yet. But I do have a pretty good handle on it, I think. And, I'm still learning. Still growing. And this podcast is a perfect example of that. Like, branching out and doing that. I have never recorded myself before for a podcast or talking to a microphone. I feel a little weird, honestly. I mean, I know I'm talking to you guys, but I'm sitting here talking to a microphone. Like, there's nobody here. It's a little different. It's weird because, I hope somebody will listen. It's not like YouTube. I had that same feeling with YouTube at first, talking to a camera. You're like, oh, talking to a camera. I don't know if anybody's listening. Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't think so. But, now I know that people are going to watch because, I've been doing it for a couple of years. I get views on the videos, but, this is the first podcast. So I've got that feeling of, this is kind of weird. But, I wouldn't change what had happened for a thing. The channel has grown. I get comments from strangers, that I've helped them. They ask questions, like what fragrance works for a wedding, how to apply ball powder, which that's a little weird, but still, I get, questions from guys that they don't have, they don't know how to do something, or they have a question and they ask me, and it's a great feeling to be able to help somebody. So I encourage you guys to help somebody if you possibly can. Always pay a compliment, a genuine compliment, at least one a day, because you never know if somebody is hurting, if they are feeling like a worthless piece of shit. And that one compliment can set them on a course that could change their life. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this first episode of the Well-Rounded Dude podcast. Hope I did okay. I know some parts may be a little bit rambly. This is my first time doing it, so, I'll get better. I promise. But please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, however you follow your podcasts, wherever you're listening to this. Please subscribe and follow. I would greatly appreciate it. If you could also drop a review, it helps me out immensely. It helps get the podcast out to more people, because I want this thing to grow, I want same thing with the channel. Please check us out on the Well-Rounded Dude YouTube channel. We do a whole bunch of topics there, a whole bunch of stuff. There's over 100 videos. I'm sure we can help you out with whatever ailment you got over there. And please be sure to check out thewellroundeddude.com. We have a merch page over there, Dude15. We'll get you 15% off your total purchase. And we're also on Instagram, and we're on Facebook as well. So please follow us there. And we're on TikTok too, come to think of it. So I'm sure I'll get better at this, I promise. So I hope you guys have a good one, and take care. Peace.